Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. I'm Alex from Chialab. I'm here with my colleagues Beppe, Jessica, Michele, and we'd like to welcome you to this workshop. We would like to talk about how to put together graphic design, especially corporate identity and illustration today. That's what we do for the Bologna Children's Book Fair for quite a few years, from 2009 more or less, and it keeps going. So let me just give you a very short view of the history of this identity idea, and then in the second part of our workshop, we'll have something practical and concrete. We'll do some nice drawing. So, back in 2009, the book fair asked us to reinforce their identity and to reinforce their without throwing away the historical logo, which you see here, which dates back from the 1960s, 1969, I think. So it had some very small redesign, but it hadn't. It mustn't be. It hadn't to be changed. And so the question we put ourselves was, how can we reinforce a historically grown identity system with something new? And so actually we came up with this idea that there might be a set of visual elements that change every year and that might be combined, live together with this old logo. So for our very first try on that in 2009, we went on type design, and as you can see, we had this set of characters and letters coming from all different alphabets of also non-Latin alphabets. I'll go through this quickly. In 2010, it was all about the architecture of the fair, so halls, aisles, and booths. Maybe a map, kind of a map of the fair. In 2011, we worked on the history of typography and printing, publishing. In 2012, we tried for the first time something a bit illustrated, but not really, as you can see, because it's still typography, but it's all handmade. And in 2013, we had the 50th anniversary of the fair, so you can see all those many 50s drawn by different members of our studio. In 2014, we worked on something more iconic, and so you can see these small faces, and for the first time this year, the need for a tagline came up for a concept. So this was all about difference. We love difference. The idea that Bologna Children's Book Fair accepts cultural differences and likes them. Expanded in 2015, and then we took a gap year. The only year we didn't work on the fair. Don't know what happened that year. And finally, in 2017, we asked ourselves how to carry on this idea of a changing identity system that changes every year. And When we talk about visual identity, we do that for museums, libraries, companies. We usually talk about graphic design, typography, copywriting, and so on, and not so often, or maybe not at all, about illustration. We're not talking about illustrating a book or a story. We're talking about illustrating a company. Yeah. And so we asked ourselves, but why not? Why not use illustration? How can we use illustration for corporate identity? Maybe the idea was already there. So the only way for the book fair to be represented by an illustrator is to change it every year, because it's you can imagine that it's not possible to have one illustrator representing the book fair forever. So we came up with this idea to give the opportunity to a young, possibly young emerging illustrator to represent the book fair every year again. Where do we find the illustrator? You maybe know that. Well, the illustrators can be found quite easily in the Bcbf annual illustrators exhibition. As you might know, there are kind of 70 or something illustrators selected every year, and that's our perfect resource for us to select illustrators. That's what we found. The first year, there was Daniele Castellano, an Italian illustrator who uses this very subtle and fine technique and kind of surreal and very poetic subjects. In 2018, we had Chloé from France with a very different kind of pictorial technique, as you can see, different from Daniele. The year after, we had a Russian illustrator, Masha. We loved her dragons. In 2020, there was Rasa from Lithuania, and I'm very happy to say that she's here with us. You'll meet her right after. We liked very much her very essential way of drawing. And in 2020, we had Jean from France. I'm very happy to say that he's here with us. He does these wonderfully colored beings. And finally, last year, we worked with Sólin from all the way from Mexico, and I'm very happy to say that he's here too with us. He does these, he has this capacity to condense intense feelings in his drawings. So let's have, I'm almost there, but I would like you to have a look at how it comes all together, how it works. Usually we invite the illustrators for a couple of days in our studio, because for us the main thing about all of this is to work together, is to find ideas together, do a lot of sketching, a lot of discussing. You know that. It should be fun, but it's not always easy. And being together, as you can imagine, in a workshop atmosphere helps a lot. This is our kind of standard scheme that we use to find ideas, to find them and test them right away. So very briefly, you have like 4 or 5 fields which are dedicated each to a different section of the fair. So maybe digital section, or the illustrators exhibition, the translators, the awards section, the survival corner where we are right now. And then you have a kind of big picture up here, which puts it all together, which should work as a composition of the lower 5. This is Chloe at work. She looks happy here. Lots of sketching, erasing and sketching. This is Masha going on color right from the start. More sketching. While sketching, usually we also think about what could be the main concept and the tagline of this year. Discussing. Some feedback with the book fair. This is important because obviously they are the final client and they have to like it. This is Jean thinking with a pencil. And this is Sólin. As you might imagine, this year we had to do it all online. We couldn't meet. And we were kind of afraid of this, and it wasn't always easy. But in the end, it worked out. Do you agree? Okay. Yeah, that's kind of strange, but it worked. So the very last point of this short history is about how to develop a system. As you might have already seen in the slides before, it's not about doing one general illustration which is good for everything and will be repeated endlessly. That's not enough. That's not that's okay for illustrating a story. But for the book fair, we need what we call a design system. So a set of illustrations which should basically work by themselves as single illustrations, but also together. It's a bit what you see when you walk around the fair right now. This is how Daniele imagined the system. So, for example, the illustrators exhibition is represented like this. You see the bird's tail with CMYK colors, the translators, birds chatting, digital awards, survival corner. And then you put it all together. In this case, a kind of a caravan. Actually, this is the way Daniele put it all together, creating a mix of 5 different animals, a real chimera, no? If you know what I mean. And yeah, it's 5 animals in one. And that's actually, it might seem quite far-fetched, but actually the book fair is a bit like that. This is how Chloe resolved her task. She imagined lots of different characters, all running towards the fair. More components are hats and plants. The illustrators had houses, the translators birds, digital area ships and navigation, constellations for the awards, pebbles for the survival corner. And this is how she put it all together. So this was the year we called the natural habitat. And here's how it comes how it all comes together. This is how Masha did it. She worked a lot on this element of pages or stages. These are the components. As you can imagine, they are very handy to combine and to use in different shapes. Stages, pages. These are the characters, illustrators, digital translators, awards, survival corner. And they kind of populate this stage-like being. This is how she combined everything. And we actually created many of these compositions. So that's so far about the history. Now I would like to ask our guests to tell you a little bit about their work, and then we'll see each other very shortly to do some practical stuff.
So, hello. I'm very happy to see you live here after 2 years. It's a very precious moment for me. So, as you see, I am Rasa Jančiauskaitė, illustrator and graphic designer from Lithuania, Vilnius. And I had this amazing opportunity to make a visual identity for 2020. And it started from this book of mine, with which I participated in the Illustrators exhibition on 2019. It was the first book that was published with my illustrations. So I felt stronger and felt maybe I can participate. So first time I did participation, and it was successful. The book is called Small Poems for Little Ones. It's by a Lithuanian poet. And there is just a very freestyle, very ironic little stories for children. And then I got an invitation from Chialab to make to show the idea as the 3 other illustrations together. And I couldn't believe it happened. It was just impossible. And I was very scared that I maybe will not succeed to do a good job. So I worked very hard and made 2 ideas. This one was called Sensations, about all the mixed feelings you have when you come to the book fair. And you are very happy, but at the same time it's super tiring, and it's always a conflict in between you. And another idea, another sketch of mine was called Rectangle. It's about the shape of paper, about the computer screen, everything connected with the area we are working on. So at the beginning I have an idea about some shape, some area to fulfill. And then there was a very joyful moment come and work with Chialab. We shared our ideas, how we look at this identity. They explained me all the history behind it. And I took my portfolio also there to show my other works. And one book of mine popped out and was noticed as a good inspiration for the identity. It's the book Suma I created for my diploma work in Vilnius Academy of Arts. It's for my master degree. So it had that primordial shape. And after the workshop with the Chialab, I went home, work alone, took a lot of books about primordial art and studied them, looked at them. It was a summer time and I was sitting alone in an old library watching those little books and drawing my sketches. When I really like the part of sketching while working, so I made I guess thousands of them. At the end it was difficult to choose which one is the good one. And in this part Chialab just helped me a lot because they made all the rational work which I hate to do. And then the shape got clearer and clearer. I draw a little sketches, and when we decided on all the sketches we're gonna develop, I started drawing them on A4 format. So all my room was filled with those drawings. And I like that because at the beginning my sense when I came to a book fair is like I met my tribe. I see all the people and it's my tribe. I want to be with them, I want to look at them, I want to walk between them. So I tried to draw that feeling of tribe, how it could look like. At the end, they had not a square shape as I imagined before, but we developed the idea about an egg, about something very precious and important, what you hold inside when you are walking in the fair, what you share with others, what you get during this event, and when you come back it grows into something new, in some new book and some new project. That's why the topic was giving birth to children's content. And the system of this identity was very open. I didn't made it for the sections as you showed you saw before. It was always different stories, freely composed, just to have a story behind. And when there was a leaflet already printed during the Frankfurt Book Fair, I believed it's real. It's not on my computer, it's a real thing. And there was an exhibition in Milan where I took those characters to be with me in the city. And what's happened next, we all know. There was hashtags everywhere, io resto a casa. And I came back to work on identity again, because there was online edition and the book fair was cancelled. So I made a little workshop together with Chialab at my home and adapted new characters for that online edition. And as you can see, also they created Instagram glasses filter. And I was very happy because there was no fair, but people were trying those glasses so I could see how it would look like with the real humans. And at the end, Well, this identity is very flexible, very open, and adaptable. And I'm very glad and I feel very privileged that this year I can be here and I can present this identity. But at the same time, well, terrible things happen in the world, and there is a war in Ukraine, and I was thinking about word identity even stronger this year, because the country is fighting for its identity at the moment, and I think we have to do whatever we can, even a very small things, to spread the message and spread the love and peace. And I hope that the content of books, of children books, of it can be our armor, and I just hope the peace for the world. Thank you.
Hello everybody, you hear me? Yeah? Okay. I'm very happy to be here to present this visual identity I did in 2020 for the 2021 edition of the Children Book Fair. So I want to start with the contest of this period. It was the 2020 year. I was alone in my apartment because of confinement, in full depression, and thinking that it was the end of my illustrator life. And I received a call of Bologna Children Book Fair for doing this, and so I was so happy to come in Bologna and to do it. It was a really good time. Sorry. So the concept we choose is symbiosis. So the symbiosis is, I have a speech. It's a durable and reciprocally profitable association between different species and organisms. And I really like it because it's beautiful and poetic. I like this vision of nature. It's not just the big who hit the small. It's really a question of associations and collaboration. It's between insects, between fungi, algae, tree. An example that I like is the air we breathe is possible thanks to the trees in the forest, but also thanks to millions and millions of tiny phytoplankton all over the surface of ocean who filter the air that we breathe. And it's really beautiful. So this is my sketchbook, the first idea. We were in research of shape and visual idea, and we start with this concept of Ouroboros. It's a figure of a snake who hit his own body, and it creates a vision of infinity, like the world of spaces. This is other sketch, yeah. And I also have in my mind the books of Luis Sepulveda and Philippe Descola about Amazonia, and about the vision with ayahuasca of a big creator who englobed all the creator of the forest. And it was a good reference to imagine some psychedelic forms with all the nature inside. This is my first try in colors, my first fusion concept. So the idea we chose is to draw different pieces of the visual identity and then to put them together to create some fusion and some mysterious creator. Like a kind of puzzle, like a game. This is another one. Here I use the transparency to create the connection between all the elements. And when I show it to Beppe of Chialab, he has a great idea to create for every pieces of the puzzle a point of connection. Some things like a line, like a curve, where after we can play with it and connect it together. And so when we have the idea, it starts for me the longest part was the realization. So this is the wall of my home. I have all the originals here. If you want to see it after, you can. So it was really long because for every little piece, I have to draw it thinking of a point of connection. Like if I want to put this on this, it's possible. This curve, it's possible to connect with this curve. So it was really, really technical time. And I do it with hand, so no computer. So I have to be really precise for that. In the end, it worked good. So I work with watercolor and gouache. I design a lot of creature, so it's a mix between familiar shape and sometimes completely abstract. I mixed the vegetables, the minerals, the aquatic life. I watch a lot of book about the color in nature, the motif in nature. So it was really long but really cool time because it was new in my practice. And at the end, I have all of this family of strange people. And when I have enough, I start to put it together and to create the shape of the visual identity. So this is the first one I did. And so this is what I'm talking about, the point of connection. And also in the hand of this strange guy. Another one. And also we mix a little bit the color and the line. And it was really a funny time because I can, at this part, I can just play like a child. I have all my stuff, and so I just decided, okay, I can put this strange bird on this strange tree, and let's go. Wow, we will see what happened. So it was the most funny part of the job, to imagine who match with who. Another one. And this is the final one. In this fusion, we put all the elements of the visual identity. So it's the biggest one we have created. And so at the end, it's a kind of game when you can move in this structure. There is no up, there is no down. And I'm very happy of the result. And it was really a super time to work with Chialab. And thank you very much.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes? Well, thank you all for coming. I am Sólin. I am from Mexico City. And I was chosen to create the visual identity for the 2022 edition. So I'm going to talk about just a little bit about what we did, because we also want to work with you and we want you to draw as well. So let's just start. Sorry. All right, so everything started in 2021. I submitted my series and I was chosen, and I made it to the Illustrators exhibition in 2021. I already said it, sorry. So I did this series. It's called Farewell, and it was right in the middle of the pandemic. It was like a really hard time, I know, like for everybody. And so at the time I was working a lot with character design. I found out, or I realized that characters have strong potential to convey a lot of meanings and stories, and so even though it might look a bit sad or a bit dark, the idea was actually to portray these characters in this world that may not be like the best at the moment, like we all were, but somehow they managed to find precious things, you know. And so Chialab and the Bcbf team contacted me and said, you know, we like what you did with your series, so we would like you to create a visual identity. Of course, I was like very surprised, and I said, I mean, absolutely, you know. So when we first met, they explained like what we just saw, you know, the workshop and how they work, and they told me that what they liked about my work was these three things, you know, portraits and characters, which, as I said, it was something that that I had been working, and also skies, because, well, that's like a common thing that I also have in my work. So we started working on the portrait theme. I started drawing a lot of characters as I started just like exploring the possibilities, you know. And I mean, at the very beginning, the workshop is all about, you know, just let yourself go with drawing, try to explore what could be, you know, how like an illustration or a drawing can become a visual identity for the fair, you know. So some of those characters might not be like related at all, but it was kind of fun, you know, to look at them and to think how can they tell us or convey, you know, like a story that might be related to something like the Bcbf. So eventually we started working on the weather theme, and I know it sounds like a bit strange. At the very beginning, of course, this was like just explorations, you know, with characters and different phases of how the world was like to me. Well, I mean, like my perception of it, you know, and how these characters could face this, how can I say it, this coming out again to the world, you know. So for instance, like this character that is like a rainbow character, that is a bit more optimistic, but then we have this character that is more reserved, you know, that is more like, all right, I don't know if I'm ready to face this new world. But as we were working, we realized that it was not like a very cohesive proposal. I realized that it had to be like really round, you know, and when people would see the visual identity, you know, they would get something like clear, you know. So we kept exploring. I started exploring other alternatives like this one, which was the open skies, you know, of the Bcbf, and I kept like, you know, developing, using characters, and this time these characters were like flying, but at the same time they weren't capable of flying by themselves, you know, so with the help of something else or with somebody else, they could do it. But we had to stop because it was not like, we were not getting there, you know. Even though I like the ideas, we were not getting to a cohesive visual identity. So we had to stop. I had to review, you know, the past visual identities. I studied like a lot of what the other illustrators did. And it became a bit more clear to me, you know, what I had to do. And so finally, we realized that we had to portray the Bcbf, you know. We have to be like very clear with that. And so we chose this. The Bcbf is an imaginative and fantastic place inhabited by people that will live and work for the future, you know. And it was somehow to look at the big picture, you know, instead of, because I mean, after 5 editions, it was like getting really hard, you know, to come up with a concept. So for me, this was really good because it helped me to find even more inspiration and ideas. And so I finally, one day, came up with this parade. And what I really wanted to portray, you know, after this this thing I just read were some of these concepts, you know. I wanted to highlight the idea of community and collectivity, but at the same time, the importance of the individual input, you know, and the collaboration, also the diversity, you know, because I think this fair is incredibly diverse, you know, people from all around the world come. And finally, I wanted to add the idea of celebration and party and joy, because I think it was necessary, you know. Of course, I mean, of course we took into consideration the pandemic, those hard times, you know, and we wanted to give something to the people and to the experience of it, and to remember how important and precious it is that we have the opportunity to be here right now together, you know. And finally, you know, I wanted to have in mind all the time, you know, characters as a narrative continent, which for me means that a character is capable of containing a world, you know, by itself. So I drew this parade. They actually came up like this, you know, like I started thinking, all right, I need to do characters that are smaller, and some of them are bigger, and some of them have certain things, you know, like a gift or a thing that they can share to others, you know. Some of them may not have like a physical thing, but they have something else, you know. They have stories, songs, dancing, music, and, you know, for instance, others have more abstract things. So they liked it, and finally we felt that we were at the visual identity. We worked a lot on what would be the best tagline for it, and finally they came up with children's content rocks during the party, which to me it was an incredible way to convey all that I just told you. And so we went even further, and I started naming them. I developed a background for each one, I don't have it here, but if you are interested in knowing it, you can go to the Bcbf webpage and you can find it in the workshop part. So here are all of them. As I told you, I wanted to make the characters, I want to give them the capacity to have something that is that is not so clear. You know, for instance, Kev, you know, who has this box with strange things that can be, you know, balloons. For some people were marshmallows, you know. But for me, it was so fun to have this ambiguity, this uncertainty, you know, so that people can unleash their imagination and, you know, and to imagine what they want from it. So we also have Pacha, Lota and Vita, Olmo, Nimbo, and finally Chico, you know. Of course, I have inspiration from my culture, from Mexico. And at the end, what I think that now more than ever, the visual identity comes in a moment where we have to remember the importance of being together and work together and being here, you know. And as Rasa already said, to live in a better place and in a place of peace. Thank you so much.
So, let's get back to work. Thanks to Rasa, Jean, and Sólin, we had some wonderful backstage insight in their work and in the visual identity workshop. I hope it was inspiring for you. I guess it was. And if you want, you can take a look at the Bcbf gallery website, which is kind of a website inside the website. It's called Galleries, and there's also a short history of all the workshops and a kind of backstage. Now, if you wish, we would like you to try the same, try what we did, what we usually do in the workshop. Work on visual identity with illustration, and well, taking from our situation at the moment. The theme for our visual identity is "Please erase war." You might remember seeing that before. This is a scheme which should allow you to put together your ideas and test them quickly. So the idea is that to create a little homage to all the peace workers, to people who are somehow involved in working for peace, be it single citizens or organizations or institutions. That doesn't matter. Wars have invaded our collective imagination. Let's reply with something visual, with visual design that represents all of these workers of peace. And the procedure is a bit as you have seen before. We have 4 single themes on the right, and we have one big picture which should be a composition of the other 4. That's the system we talked about until now. The main theme is "Please erase war," and the 4 single subjects are "Destroy weapons," "Use diplomacy," "Cancel aggression," "Create hospitality." You might take inspiration from what you've seen so far from our guests, and feel free to doodle and draw. Please do it inside this this scheme. I will hand it out to you, and draw peacefully and have fun.